There we go. You can take over there.
Okay, so it all goes up on YouTube. You can start it, you can stop it. So if you've been sitting here today wondering, no, wait a minute, what happened back then? You can go back home, you can look at it, you can listen to it, whatever you want. We were looking at something the other day, trying to work out something with a speaker who was here a couple months ago, Paul Fink. Was anybody here for the Paul Fink event? Yeah. Okay, so we got a couple people here. And he was giving away a 3-day event in Las Vegas, which is kind of a coaching event. If you had attended the meeting, but seeing as you're at this meeting, I said, well, is it still possible that people can go for free to your 3-day Las Vegas coaching event? And he said, yeah, I'll make us some certificates. So I've got some of these. At the end of this, come back over here to the table, pick some of these up, and if you're interested, then what I would do is go back and watch the video so you can make sure this is something you want to go to. It's at the end of this month, like the 26th, the 28th. I'm going. A number of people from the REIA here are going to it. So it's a good thing for coaching, he does real estate. If you watch the video of him, the guy's pretty dynamic. He does a lot of buying and selling properties. Pretty cool guy, entertaining. So these are all free. We've got maybe 8 or 10 of these over here. So do consider that before you leave today. Let's see.
How do we find it on YouTube?
Oh, okay. So YouTube, if you just go, you see the SBREIA.
Okay.
If you just do that.com,
Okay.
that will take you right to it. And as soon as you get to that website, I've got a link on there that shows you all the dates of the meeting we've had, all the videos, and it's all free. Everything's free. The only thing that really costs you to be a member of the Santa Barbara REIA is to come to the events, because we've got to pay for the room. This isn't cheap. It's like $1 per square foot. So if it's a 500 square foot room, which we were in smaller downstairs a while back, it was $500. But Lynn and I have been really good at doing these events, and so we've done our negotiating with Fest Park and trying to get the price down and make it still work for everybody, so that you're not paying a whole lot to get in here. So it's been good. Where did I start my real estate investing? Well, the first property that I bought was a duplex in Isla Vista next to UCSB when I was 28 years old back in 1978. Okay. As you can see, I'm no spring chicken now, right? So, that was at a time when I was taking real estate classes and people were saying at the City College, hey, you better hurry up and get out there and buy something because the market's going up. And you can't work fast enough or hard enough or long enough to keep up with how things are going to inflate. And the guy was standing there saying, do you realize that right now prices in Santa Barbara for an average 3-bedroom, 2-bath home are $50,000, and in maybe another 5 or 10 years it's going to be $300,000, and everybody sat there and went, oh, you're crazy. No way. It's not going to happen. Well, you know where we are now, 20 years, 30 years later, how things go. And although we are kind of at the bottom of the market now in Santa Barbara, and things are starting to come back up, it's a good time to consider that kind of investing. When you're looking at leveraging money, the market's going up, and you're looking at getting loans to leverage, that actually is a good time. It's the best time when the market's going up, because the market, as you know, goes in cycles, and there's 4 cycles. You're down at the bottom, you're going up, you're at the top, you're going down. Really, the only time that leverage is good is when it's going up. Anytime after that, it's kind of like bankruptcy time. You better get out quick or hold on for the long run. Now, I bought that duplex, rented everything out. I moved into the garage and basically lived there for free at 28 years old. I really didn't want to go there. I came to Santa Barbara thinking about learning about real estate, and I got a realtor that said, let's go out to Isla Vista, let's check this place out. I was living up in the Mesa, not the Mesa, but up by Mission, up in the hills with a nice view. And I really didn't want to go live in Isla Vista. I mean, it was like, they took me out there, we looked at some things. I bought it for about $74,000. And the first year that I had enough tax money coming back and write-offs from it that I looked at it and went, wow, I could do this again and again and again. And so I bought a few more properties in Santa Barbara area. That particular duplex I sold 2 years ago as the market started going down, because as it went down, I started going, this is not good. This could go down a long ways. And it did. In fact, the house we live in right now I built 15, 20 years back up on West Camino Cielo. At the peak of the market, it appraised for about 1.8. Now I'd be lucky to get 1, or maybe 1.2. So you're looking at like $500,000 worth of loss in value, which would really kill you if you're doing speculation investing and trying to get in and get out in time. But as long as you're staying for the long haul, it doesn't really make much difference, right? It's not really money in your pocket, but you're not paying the higher bills because you've had it for years. That duplex I sold a few years ago for about $800,000, $74,000 purchase, $800,000 sale, but it took 30 years. So, you know, there's lots of ways to do real estate investing. You've heard a lot of things here today, and I guarantee you any one of them are great, all of them will work, but you've got to be really laser focused on one thing and get good at it. Instead of jumping around from thing to thing to thing, going broke. So you know, it's tough to get focused. And that's one of the things that helps coming to these meetings, is that you can start listening to things and going, well, what can I do? What should I do? How can I get the education? How can I stay focused and stay on it? Just to give you a quick little idea, you know, Linda said, well, Dan, you know, you've got this beautiful house up on the West Camino Cielo. That's the view from our porch. You can see the mountains, you can see South Santa Barbara, you can see the islands and the ocean. You know, it's a lifestyle, and you really have to kind of choose what lifestyle do you want to live, because any of these things that you've heard here today, some are going to demand that you do a lot of traveling, that you actually physically go out places, and that might be good if you like to travel. Some are going to probably be more sit at the desk, you know, in your shorts like some of the people talked about, and that's good too, if that's what you want to do. But, you know, before you head down the path and jumping into something and getting really laser focused, you really ought to take a look at the lifestyle of the people who are doing what you think you want to do. If they're living the lifestyle, and I don't just mean all the money and the toys and the fun, but I mean what it demands on them of their time, whether it be at home or whether you're on traveling or whatever, you really want to take a look at that lifestyle and go, yeah, I'd like to do that. So that's going to be my mentor, and I'm going to follow this person here and see where it takes me. I want to do that. So, you know, it really is important that you kind of take a look at that if you're just starting off. Now, what I do, my main focus is what I call rent-ready properties and turnkey properties. And so I buy and sell foreclosure properties on a national level. One of the speakers here mentioned Ron LeGrand. And one of the famous words that he would always say is, hey, you know, this stuff doesn't work in your neighborhood. And then he would say, it works in everybody's neighborhood, all over the country. Well, kind of true, kind of not true. It's really, as you know, the market goes up and down, and whatever kind of investing you're doing may or may not work where you live. Now, I'm here in Santa Barbara, and I looked at this and I went, oh my God, you know, $1 million homes, cash flow. I mean, if you take a look at why we're in this business, besides creating a life that we enjoy, a style that we can live, is really ROI, return on investment. No matter whether you're going to a job or whatever, you're looking at your return on investment. And if you look at buying $1 million homes and renting them out, you're not getting nearly the return on investment that you would get if you paid $20,000. Because, you know, you can only rent a house in Santa Barbara so much. You know, I've got one of the houses that I didn't sell, I still have here in town, and it rents for about $3,000 a month. And I think I purchased it for about $240,000. It went up at the peak of the market to about $1.1 million. It's probably down to about $700,000 now, so that gives you an idea of the swing of things that happen in a place like this. And, you know, if you thought, well, if I go out and spend $700,000, especially if I want to do cash, like some people talked about, what kind of rent would I get? $3,000 a month is probably, I don't know, 12%, or I don't know what it is. You know, got some people in here to figure that out real quick. But in any case, so, you know, if you're looking at making a lot of money in a market that's going up, sure, Florida, California, Santa Barbara, the coast, you know, Washington, Oregon, these places that go really up and really down are great places to invest if that's the kind of investment you want to do as the market's going up. But how many people can get out in time instead of being in denial that the market is actually going back down again. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't get out and you live in it for 30 years, so what? But if you need to get out of it so you can get your cash and go, you know, that's a tough game to play. I think that's really why Donald Trump, and not this recession, but the previous recession, went into bankruptcy. I really think that he was in denial, and he certainly was over leveraged. And he was running around screaming, cash is king, cash is king. And I was sitting there going, what is he talking about? And then I realized, oh man, it's hitting the fan, you know? And if you had the cash and you could get out of it, it would be, but he couldn't get out of it at the time. I think he was in denial. This recession, have you seen any problem with Donald Trump financially? No, he learned his lesson. And one of the lessons that I got from listening to him, he had an interview with his kids. Now I've got my son here, Michael. Hey, he's doing videos. And I had my daughter out there, Alana, in the registration. He had his kids interview him in something I watched, and they said, well, you know, they wanted to get some questions out of him. They wanted him to ask them some questions. And then his son said, no, wait a minute, stop. You're talking to me like I'm your son. I want you to talk to me like I'm just another person, a business person. And I'm asking you, with all your experience, and me being in my late 20s, what do you advise to me? And he looked at him and he said, it's the same thing I advised to all the people who lost in the last recession and never made it back. He said, you really have to focus. You really have to stay on one thing and focus. When you get successful, then you can move on to something else. Well, you can see he's moved on to a number of different things, and this recession didn't catch him. Leverage is a good thing in real estate, but it's something that will kill you in the wrong market, in the wrong place. So I looked at this and I went, well, I'm in Santa Barbara. How am I going to rehab these homes and do this stuff with $1 million properties and make that kind of money? I can't. So I'm going to have to start looking at going to other places. I can't, you know, in my estimation of what I want to do at that time. Stacy in here? She's not in here? Okay. People are rehabbing homes in this market. And, you know, if you're rehabbing in an upgoing market, you can just about do it blind and still make money, because you could lose $30,000 worth of inventory that you stuck into that property. If you drug it on long enough, with the market going up fast enough, you might make $50,000 just in appreciation that had nothing to do with your rehab. But if you're doing that in a market that's going down, and you're trying to rehab, a lot of people go broke really quick. So you guys are at a really good point in time right now that, you know, if you want to get into rehabs, and I don't recommend that as the first thing to do if you're just starting off, you still can do it because the market's going up. And you want to do it in places where the market's going up. So what I do is I buy and sell foreclosure properties on a national level. I joint venture with investors, and basically they come in with $15,000 or $20,000. I make sure the places get rehabbed and cleaned up and rented. And then we, you know, I handle all that. My investors, the nice thing about what I do is they don't have to do anything. They can even be a real estate investor doing other things, and this can be just another part of their portfolio, but they can be a teacher, or they can be a doctor, or a nurse, or whatever, and they don't have to deal with any of this. How many people in here want to be a landlord? Nobody likes raising their hand, and I get really good reviews of that one because, first of all, nobody wants to be a landlord, and that's kind of my job on this. Is like I manage all this stuff, and managing the properties isn't black and white. It's not like I always get a manager, or I always don't, or I do this, or I do that. I've got that one property left here in Santa Barbara that I never did sell because I sold the other ones off. I want to take the money and go back out to the Midwest someplace else where I can still get some good cash flow while the market was going down. I had one property left. Didn't sell it because I just absolutely, it got down too far, and I just went, I'm not selling this at the bottom of the market. Just, I can't do it, you know? And even way back in the beginning, my wife was saying, sell, just, you know, sell whatever and live off the money while you're learning how to do this. And I'm thinking, boy, you're a lot braver than I am. But in any case, I didn't sell it. I am, you know, waiting for the market to come back. And when it comes back, if I have to wait another 5 years, and it goes from the 700 it is now to maybe the 900 at least, not the 1.2, but at least the 900, which is very, you know, conceivable that we can do that, then I'll have enough money in that property to pay off the house that I just showed you with the view, and be there free and clear. Okay, so these are the kind of things that you can do over time, but that's, you're talking 20, 30 years. So how do you do something quicker like right now? This is one thing that people do with me, and they don't have to deal with any of it. The house that I have in Santa Barbara, I have a property manager in because, like they talked about, there are friendly states and there are unfriendly states for investors and tenants, and you have to figure out which is which. California is not that friendly for investors. For instance, I had the duplex I had out Vista. I had tenants that trashed the place. I had the parents co-sign. They were all supposed to pay it. I went to court and sued. I first talked to my insurance person, and I said, totally trashed the place. He goes, well, just file a claim and we'll get your money back. And I said, no, these people need to be held responsible. Why file a claim and keep raising everybody's insurance that they're paying without holding these people responsible? And he looked at me and laughed and said, okay, learn the hard way. He was right. So I sued. I went to court. I won. They didn't pay. I went back to court again. Won again. They didn't pay. I went back on the third time and looked at the judge and I said, well, I keep coming back to court, I keep winning, but they keep not paying. He said, well, you can go to a collection agency. I said, I could have done that without ever coming to court. He goes, yeah. It's kind of like, they don't have a real good feeling for individual property owners, landlords. But if my property management company went in there and said, hey, we got this problem, the judge would be like, oh yeah, I see people all the time. I know you have a bona fide business. You're in here every week. Okay, and they treat them better. But that still doesn't mean it's going to work out any better in court. They still could win. They still have to go back to the collect. So yeah, you do have to go to a collection agency. But what I'm getting at is there are right times to be a manager and right times that maybe you won't. I'm not going to be a manager here in Santa Barbara, but I manage most of the properties that I do out around the nation. If they're in Section 8, they're kind of pretty much managed by themselves, because who's going to want to mess around and lose their Section 8, right?
Right.
I mean, I've had tenants call me up and say, this carpet needs to be replaced, and they'd only been in there for a month, and Section 8 had already approved it, and I would say, well, when do you call up Section 8, maybe we can have them come out and re-inspect, and they go, oh no, don't call Section 8. It's okay, we don't need a carpet. So, that's kind of self-managed. Some of the other places, if you get the right tenants and you do the right thing, they're not that difficult, but you do have to stay on top. The horror story is management companies, especially the bad economy. We've had people sitting in the same chairs as you, as members, lose their property, go bankrupt. Even in Memphis, Tennessee, where I invest, I followed an investor there with the management company. It's horrible. And what they were doing was basically just treating the tenants like crap, because they realized what does a management company get? Who are they beholden to? Their commission. That's where they make their money. Every time a tenant moves out and they have to turn over the property, it's going to be $5,000 in maintenance. So they're just going to keep treating it like crap. Keep turning over the properties and keep getting more money from doing all of that work. It's not the 10% that they get. It's the maintenance that they get. So if you have property managers that don't have a whole lot of integrity, you've got that problem. So now it's time to fire the property manager, get another one, if you want a property manager. Again, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You have to make those decisions as you go. So this type of investment for some people is like, oh great, it doesn't matter what kind of job I have. If I do this with Dan, I don't have to deal with it, because here's what happens. I go on the deed with you, 50-50. And the only way that I make money is if I keep the rents up, and I keep the maintenance low. And of course, I don't want to keep it so low that it's a house that you wouldn't want to live in. It's got to be nice enough to be livable. So that's kind of my job. And just to give you an idea, if you said, well, I would like to do what you're doing, Dan, I could mentor you, I could teach you, whatever. It's a full-time job. Like somebody else has said in here today, there really isn't a passive income from the standpoint of the more risky the investment is, the more you have to sit there and watch it and manage it. Otherwise, someone's going to take your cash and they're going to be down the street. The less risky it is, like maybe in the bank, you're only getting 1% or 0.5%, and inflation's eating away at it. And somebody like Bill Gates could have all the money in the bank, even though he's losing with inflation. If he's got enough money to keep him alive and his family alive for the next 2,000 years, so what? cares if it eats away? That passive income will be there longer than they will. So, you know, for us, when we're starting off, you got to realize it's a game you have to work at all the time to keep it going. So, just to give you an example, I had somebody just recently, in the last week here, or 2 weeks, week and a half, call me up, send me an email, and said, Dan, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to do. I want to do one of these strictly properties. I said, okay. So I emailed back and forth, and finally I got talking to this lady, and I said, well, where are you? She said, Virginia. And I said, okay, so how did you find out about me? She said, well, all I did was a Google search on 20K properties, and yours was the first one that popped up, and I want to do it. Well, of all the marketing and everything has been doing it, it's not easy, huh? I need to figure that one out about 10 more times, you know, over and over. So, you know, it is a good business. It's a good lifestyle because I get to spend a lot of time at home. I mean, when you saw the view, you went, okay. Do I want to go very much? No, my kids are young. I get to kind of work with them and help them and mentor them too. Here's an example of some of the properties. This particular property is out in Indiana. They talked about Indiana here too. I quit doing carpets. You can see it's all, these rentals, they're vinyl plank flooring from Home Depot. So, you know, 2 months or 2 years and the carpets are trashed in a rental. We've been living on carpets for 15 years, and believe me, they're trashed. And we're finally starting to replace those with some vinyl plank flooring. My son has done our hallway, my daughter's done her bedroom, and you know, it looks really good. Yeah. There are beautiful tile jobs, and I would never say that this is better than a beautiful tile job. But the interesting thing is when you walk on this, it's warm. You know, when you walk on tile, it's really cold. So if you want a beautiful, really nice house, then yeah, there's better tile floors, but this is really good for rentals, and it could be good for your house too. I'm going to cover some other things besides real estate now, and what we got here time-wise?
You got all the time in the world you want, Dan. I know the next week.
Sure, good, thank you. Okay, so you know, if you've got any questions on this stuff, you can go back to NHBig is where I've got some of my properties, and this particular person said, I just want to buy into what you've already got, so we're doing that. Okay. NHB LLC is my other website that has more information about what I'm doing, but I want to give you a little bit of some other things besides just the real estate, buying and selling real estate. One is solar. Has anybody in here considered going with solar? Okay. Has anybody in here decided maybe it's not the right time yet, or had a lot of other reasons why not to do it? I've been looking for 5 or 6 years, having different people come up, and I've just been kind of feeling guilty, like, they're going to come up here, they're going to spend a few hours, and you're probably not really going to do this, and you're just going through all these people, getting all these different reasons. You might even go do it yourself. But one of the problems is financing, okay? First of all, solar for our house, it's about a 4,000 square foot home. To do everything that we need is about $42,000 for that solar, okay? Everybody came up here with a lot of people came up here with horror stories about how things were tough in their life and then it got better, they got past it. Well, one of the things this last recession did for us was made it difficult for us to sell homes that we would normally say, oh, we got $50,000 worth of credit card debt, let's sell a home and pay it off, or let's refinance or whatever. You know, it's been difficult getting loans to do that. So if your credit isn't where it needs to be, and our credit was okay, it's just that we've got a lot of credit card debt, so lenders aren't lending, and they looked at that and went, no, we're not going to loan you for solar. Okay. So finally Solar City came along, and they said, as long as you've got a 700 credit score, you're in. Guess what mine was? 705. He laughed and said, we could have used your wives. We lowered it, now it's down to maybe 680. But the main thing is, they could care less as long as you have at least, you know, 680 or 700 credit score, and there is $42,000 worth of solar that can go on your house, and you pay it off over 20 years. Now our bill is about $300 a month for electric. It's now going to be $150 a month. Next month in August is when they're coming to install it. And they said, well, we can lock you in for the 20 years that you're paying this off if you pay another $2,000. Do you want to do this? You don't have to. You can just have a no money out of your pocket deal. We'll come in and do this thing. But if you want to lock in, you can. Now, Solar City and all these companies that do lease on solar, their rates go up too, just like Edison or other power companies, but not as much. And I just went, you know, I don't want my rate to go up at all. I just want to keep it locked in. Okay, I paid the $2,000. What I found out was the $2,000 I paid part of that. If you get the rebates and you get the state rebates, it went from $42,000 down to $26,000, and then it went from $26,000 to $24,000. That $2,000 paid part of that solar that I was going to have to pay anyway. It wasn't like if you pay $2,000, we'll give it, you know, we'll lock you in. It's actually paying it down. Okay, so you know. Here's the thing, you've got expenses. You've got electric in your house, you've got food, you've got heating, you've got a lot of different bills you've got to pay every month. And probably the biggest bill that we're ever going to pay as we move forward is going to be gas for our car. Okay, well, has Elon Musk finally proven his point that we can go electric, even though the price might be pretty high, those prices are going to come down. So once you get solar and then eventually electric car, you're probably going to knock out the biggest expense that people ever have, which is gasoline, because that's going to continue to skyrocket. Of course, there's other things like solar heating, solar water heating. And as I looked at this, we've had other speakers come in here, and one of the speakers that came in here showed us far infrared heating panels. Anybody in here seen far infrared heating panels? Okay. This heats your house way less expensively than gas or regular electric. And imagine that picture of the wall over there is a perfect example. You can get a picture that size with far infrared, which is actually therapeutic heat. Plug it into 110 and warm you up. Okay? We turned off our forced air heating, and if anybody saw all the mold and all the dust and all the stuff that's inside of the forced air heating within most homes, I mean, where did Legionnaire's disease come from? Doesn't work. Ductwork? Okay. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to have blowing around your house. And unfortunately, if you live in a really hot place like Las Vegas, even if you turn your heat off in the winter, you're still probably going to have to turn your air conditioner on in the summer. I don't think they'll have any panels out that will keep you cool or cold, but they certainly do have things that keep you warm in summertime. That's good therapeutic stuff to be around. And as I looked at that, I went, gee, maybe they've got something out there that you can put in your bed. Yeah, I looked on the internet, and sure enough, there are far infrared heating mattresses that are out there now that are isolated so you don't get EMF and weird things happening to your body. And dual control, left and right, you know, his and her, different, you know, temperatures. And when we did this, we were running around the house going, wow, this is so fantastic. And our kids were looking at us like, you're stupid. You know, big deal. And so I looked at Michael in London. Michael said, well, you know, I'm cold. Sure, why don't you get us one? So we got one for them. They came out the next day, and the very next day, they said, this is weird. I've never dreamt so much. I've never slept so good. This is weird. So, you know, this is something to think about too, because in your room, if you like fresh air, like my wife and I do, you could have on a cold winter night, cold wind blowing through your bedroom and be in this nice warm bed. And it's great. Now here's something else. It's another little health product. And this is, we had another speaker come in here a couple months back with something called Tower Gardens. Were you there?
Well, I went to a different one, but I never been.
Okay, cool. Well, they came in here. They're our neighbors. And so we went, that's really great because, you know, one of the problems we have where we live, it may not be this everywhere, but it certainly is where we are up in the mountains in Santa Barbara, with rats and gophers and you name it. You put something out there and it's like consumed, it's gone. So this, first of all, it doesn't have any dirt, it's water. Michael signed up for it. He's actually created one that's even bigger than this. It's got stuff everywhere. This thing is like huge. And there's no dirt. They actually figured out how to do this because they were going out in space and trying to figure out, well, if we don't have dirt, let's just have seeds, how can we grow things? And this is kind of how they came across this technology, which is really cool. Something else we have is Santa Barbara Computing Services. Now, I worked at the university for 26 years. I created a computer service organization. A student of mine and I actually created UCSB.edu, the main campus website. Everybody at campus, when we had these meetings, would say, well, why are you doing this? You're nobody. You're just this little organization. We could have the computer center doing this. We just did it because everybody else, it was all politics and talking, and nobody was taking any action, so we went out and did it. From that experience, I've done a lot of my own websites, but I've actually got my son Michael and my daughter Alana now doing websites and social media marketing, and they're doing it for our members here and other people for like $15 an hour, which is pretty inexpensive to find that kind of support, and pretty good support. And if they get in a jam, I'm there to bail them out, and it's the same price. So that's something else that you could consider as well. And I've got, some handouts here. If you're interested in something like getting support, I've got about 4 of these to give away, which is 2 hours of free support. All you have to do is come back over the table when we're through here and pick one of these up, and I'll sign and date it. And we've had a number of people get support. In fact, some people picked them up, didn't come back for 6 months or a year, and now finally coming back. So that's available to you as well. Do we have any questions so far? Okay, a little bit different than what you've been hearing today. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for me.